You know what else is disappointing? The Microsoft Slaughterhouse. Literally, this morning, as I'm recording this, I woke up to the news that Microsoft is shuttering 4 different studios. Let's see, the list is, I'm reading off an IGN article right now, via Wesley Yinpool. Microsoft closes Redfall developer Arcane Austin, Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks, and more. This also includes the smaller, mostly mobile studios, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse. I actually couldn't really figure out what Roundhouse did. But Alpha Dog, you might know them for making Mighty Doom, that sort of chibi Doom mobile game a few years ago. Don't know what Roundhouse did. Still sucks. It looks like... So Roundhouse at least is being... It says absorbed by the... ZeniMax Online, so they'll probably be put to work on Elder Scrolls Online, so I guess a bit of a silver lining for those guys. Alpha Dog apparently just getting closed, just blown away. And the 2 that people are very upset about are, and I don't want to make this about like, oh, they deserved it less or something, or they deserved it more, or all that. I just want to focus on things that because I literally do have some... connection to these other 2. Arcane Austin. Now, a lot of people aren't... I had to look it up myself. A lot of people aren't 100% on on like, oh, there's like 2 Arcanes or something. Yeah. So there's Arcane Lyon, I think it is, which is the French developer. Those are the ones who are making that Blade game right now. Arcane Austin made Prey and Redfall, which is a very, very funny track record. Yeah, I had the thing. Arcane Austin games. It was, I think, the list just says, yeah, first the I don't know which one. I'm pretty sure that Lyon was the original. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Lyon was the original studios. Then they opened the Austin studios. Prey was developed by Arcane Austin. Yeah, Prey and Redfall. Oh, and Redfall was also co-developed by Roundhouse. Oh, and Roundhouse was... oh, shit! Roundhouse... This is so funny. It's a little tragic now. Roundhouse was Human Head Studios, who did Rune... they did the original 2006 Prey. God, it's just a cursed IP. They did Brink. They did they helped on The Quiet Man. Holy shit. Yeah, I think they mostly did, like, canceled Prey 2. Oh, that was a sequel to the original one. Okay. I think that they... Yeah. Very, very weird, like, who owns what and who's working on what is funky. But yeah, so Arcane Austin was the Redfall and Prey people. And it really sucks, because on one hand you can look at it like, okay, their games never performed amazingly well. Prey 2017 was not a commercial success, even though it's an amazing game. You should totally play Prey 2017. That is a real tongue twister. You should totally play that game. Amazing ImSim. Honestly, like, I think I mentioned this back when I first played that game when I was talking about it on this podcast. But the real, like, basically spiritual successor to System Shock. It's like the unofficial System Shock 3. To me. Great game. And then they got put on Redfall, which was a project that they didn't really want to make, or at least one that they didn't want to make it in the way that they were forced to make it. They really got screwed with by management. Kind of a tragedy what happened with that game. Poorly marketed, poorly just conceived, and just kind of sucked. Just kind of sucked what happened to them. So they are being shut down, which feels unfair, right? It feels unfair. And then Tango. And Tango is a slightly more complicated matter. Tango was Microsoft's sort of window into Japan. It was a very Japanese developer. And it was originally headed up by Shinji Mikami of Resident Evil fame. This is, I feel like, a long-standing, almost like bucket list item for Microsoft. Because way, way back, they tried to get Shinji Mikami's permission to put our Resident Evil 4 on the Xbox. And I actually read a transcript or an account of the meeting that they had. And Mikami would ask the Microsoft representative, like, what is their philosophy on games? And the representative just couldn't give them an answer. Just couldn't come up with anything. And not even because they didn't have one. Microsoft did have a philosophy. It was like, make games that are like art or something like that. But the representative just didn't know. He just had never thought about that. And he thought it was going to be a purely business meeting. And then this guy asked him about, like, you know, making art and shit. And he's just completely out of his depth. So they fumbled that. And then they're like, Shinji Mikami, he broke off from Capcom. He's making like a spiritual successor, like a new Resident Evil with was it Ghostwire? Was it Ghost? No, it wasn't Ghostwire. It was I guess Evil Within. I don't know. He was like, I guess that's what that was. They're like, Shinji Mikami's new studio. So Ghostwire came way later. What am I talking about? New studio. Let's buy him up. And then he fucking left. I think he just hates them. And he left the company. And he kind of left in his place Ikumi Nakamura. You guys remember her. She was that cute lady who did the, like, funny pose on stage at the game. Everyone loved her. She also left the company. And who was there to replace her? I don't know. There was the guy, Johannes something, who worked, who was like a director for Hi-Fi Rush. So they put out Hi-Fi Rush, and that's like their last game. And they probably could have recovered from it. I'm going to be honest. Even though they had a tumultuous situation with their leadership, which could have been Microsoft's fault for all we know, they could have recovered from it, I think. I think they probably could have found someone. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was so beloved critically that I think if you said, like, this is the guy who directed Hi-Fi Rush, I think there would have been at least some kind of... you could have put some kind of weight behind that, right? A real breakout hit. I mean, they released it with no marketing, and it was immediately, like, everywhere, right? And the one thing that I was confused about that I was trying to get an answer on this morning was, did Hi-Fi Rush sell well? Because everyone's confused. Like, dude, that game was everywhere. And I know it had to have at least a pretty good budget. It was definitely a AAA game. It didn't have the hyper-realistic, ray-traced graphics and all that, and the reflections and the whatever. But it was definitely visually, like, the amount of work and development time and the size of the studio was definitely, like, on par with, like, a AAA project. This isn't a little indie game. I think at the smallest you could call it AA. Having a really stylized art style like that you don't just, like, snap it into existence and make it look good and put all of the, like, engineering and stuff that they put into making that game like an action rhythm game. So I was wondering, did that game sell well? Because it seemed like, and everyone's like, dude, that game was so good, and everyone was talking about it, and I looked at, the game hit 2 million players. How could they get 2 million sales and not at least, break even? You would hope. If you can't break even off 2 million sales, that seems like a big problem. And then I did a little more looking, and it turns out that metric, the 2 million players metric, is really important. Because Microsoft said, no, Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell, it didn't meet our sales expectations, which sounds bizarre. How does that make sense? Well, a part of the story that I completely forgot about was that, yes, Hi-Fi Rush was launched the same day that it was announced. It was a flash reveal. Flash drop, you know? It was released onto Game Pass. It was released onto their streaming service. So when they say the sales figures didn't meet expectations, it's like, yeah, you forgot to sell it? Now, I'm being facetious here. They did sell a separate version. You could buy it as its own thing on their storefront and all that. But, like, who's gonna do that? Fucking the first, like, what is it, 30 days of Game Pass or something is like $1, and then it's like $10 after that? Who's gonna buy the separate thing? Are you stupid? Is he stupid? Is he stupid? Like, who said... When your main service... When your main deal right now is Game Pass, a subscription streaming service... Why the fuck would you care about metrics? Why would you even set sales goals to begin with when your main product isn't based on individual sales? It makes absolutely no sense at all. Like, baffling. What? So yeah, it was incredibly successful in the number of people that they got to play it. But they had... The metric they were looking at, it was just nonsense. Just completely nonsense. Like, they should be looking at it in terms of Game Pass growth, right? Like, Game Pass subscriber growth. Because that's how that works. Like, oh, did this product get people to start Game Pass subscriptions? That feels like the metric you should be looking at. Right? That's your main thing. But no, it was poor sales. Poor sales. Just befuddling. That's the term. Befuddling. What? Yeah, I'm going to shock all the business majors who are listening right now. In order to get sales, you have to sell the product first. This is that shit they don't teach you in college, okay? This is what you learn on the mean streets. Just baffling. And if that really was the reason, the low sales, what? Just the name, the brand recognition alone. Phil Spencer is such a shitty fucking manager. He's such a shitty leader. I can't believe all of this is happening under him. People think that Phil Spencer is good at talking. His main skill is talking and not being outwardly shitty, like Don Matrick. But the Spencer era of Xbox has been a complete disaster. Like, what is the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but of evil? Like the evil trifecta. It would be like Matrick, him. I don't know. I don't know who the third one would be, but there's an analogy here. I'm just not smart enough to come up with it on the spot. Complete disaster. Matrick was like the bang, and Spencer is the whimper. Christ. Just complete incompetence. Like, confusing levels of incompetence. And now this also brings to mind here's the lesson, okay? I think here's the lesson to pull from all this. One of the lessons. Acquisitions are bad. Do you remember when everyone was, oh, Activision, Microsoft's gonna buy Activision. Yeah, my team's gonna get, yeah, for my team. No, dude, this is why the Embracer shit was bad. I remember being like cautious, like about Embracer. I think I even said it way back, like, okay, you're cool for now, but I'm gonna hold off on you guys. Yeah, and guess what? It turns out that consolidating 1,000 different people under and groups and companies under one umbrella is actually super unstable. Look at the government. It actually kind of sucks. Oh shit, we made bad investments in fucking cut funding from this thing, that didn't do anything. The overwhelming trend with big corporations is that when someone at the top fucks up and makes a bad decision, the people who had nothing to do with that suffer instead. They offload the responsibility onto people who are basically innocent. And that's the most despicable part of it. And that's why I am always extremely about acquisitions. I would prefer as much of the industry to stay decentralized as possible, right? I talk a lot about how it's very difficult, I would say impossible, to truly monopolize the gaming industry. And I still stand by that, but I do want to add, yes, when you have big companies that employ thousands to hundreds of thousands of people, having those companies be bought out by someone takes huge chunks of that industry. It's still not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing. And you know what's crazy? I don't know if he posted this today, but I saw it this morning. I think he uploaded it this morning. I don't know if it was a coincidence. Who knows? Because it's not directly addressing it. But John Romero, the G himself, posted a video to his Instagram telling an old story from the early days of id Software. It was when they were, he said, about 6 weeks into developing Wolfenstein 3D. And they were still riding pretty high on Commander Keen. And I think they might have had a preview of Wolf 3D or something like that out or something like that. And they get a call from Sierra Online. And Sierra says, hey, we saw what you're doing with Wolfenstein, and we are interested in buying out your company. Do you want to come over to our headquarters? And do you want to come over to our headquarters and check us out, and we'll hang out a little bit? So they went over to California. They were in Wisconsin at the time. They went over to California. They met Ken and Roberta Williams. I think he even said they had just published King's Quest V. So, they were top dogs at the time. I love how the Wikipedia page says founded, defunct, and then fate. And fate is dissolved. Crazy. And they had a great time. They really hit it off with them. They were all vibing. They go back to Wisconsin, and they get a call a week later from Sierra, and they said, "Hey, we're interested in buying out. We want to make you. We want to make you the offer. We want to buy out id for $2 million, which adjusted for inflation in today's money would be $5.5 million. And mind you, this is four guys. This is four guys in an apartment room who are basically have been making games in secret from their employer, right? This is the smallest of small time. They get an offer for $5.5 million in today's money. And they said, okay, can I put you on hold? We're going to talk about it. They go. Romero, Carmack, probably would have been the other guys. I don't know. I'm struggling to remember. Probably Adrian? Was Adrian with them? It doesn't matter. And they're like, oh yeah, this is incredible. This is an incredible opportunity. Do we have to take it? But we will have one caveat. So Romero gets back on the phone and he says, okay, we're willing to take you up on the deal, but we want $100,000 as a down payment. We want you to give us $100,000 up front in good faith in case the deal doesn't go through. And Sierra said, nope, that's too much money. And their thought process was, okay, well, if you aren't willing, you are gonna give us $2 million. And if you're so sure about this, If you're so sure about this that you're going to give us $2 million, but you won't give us a fraction of that up front for a deal that, according to you, is practically already done, and that we're willing to do, we don't trust you on that. So they said, okay, well, we're going to have to say no to it. And then they went on to completely independently make history. Well, sorry, except for the GT Interactive years. So the bottom line is, I would say don't get acquired. I would genuinely say, I'm not saying this from any experience besides just what I've observed. When the overwhelming trend is stay independent. This is something I really respect about George Lucas. I really respect this about George Lucas. He took the whole Star Wars IP and everything under it, and he said, nope, I'm not selling it out to a studio. I'm not selling it out to anybody. I'm going to keep it under me. I'm going to take my money from these toy sales, and I am going to start my own, basically just little industry. I'm going to start, he started Skywalker Ranch, Skywalker Sound, Industrial Light and Magic, and all that technology, all of that innovation. George Lucas is responsible for an incredible amount of innovation in a number of fields. He's like kind of the reason modern electronic music exists. Like modern synths were developed at Skywalker Sound. Well, I won't, not modern, but like, I'm not a music history expert, but like the equipment, like that technology was developed at Skywalker. Industrial Light and Magic pioneered tons and tons of visual effects techniques. All of their other subsidiaries, like LucasArts and stuff like that, like incredible contributions to technology and culture. And you know why? It's because he kept it all. He kept it all. He didn't sell it out. And you know what would have happened? You know what would have happened if he sold those rights and all that? They probably would have just pumped out a bunch of sequels and some shitty merchandise and stuff like that, and then it would just become something, right? It would just become some bullshit. But he kept it under him, and he kept control of it. And you can disagree with the decisions that he made with Star Wars and the fucking prequels and all that and yada yada. But at the end of the day, he did it all himself, and he stayed free. And I find that very respectable as a creative. Don't sell out. Keep the rights. Don't let them get the rights. If you care at all about what you're doing, don't let them get the rights. It's genuinely not in your best interest. So this sucks. The acquisitions suck. All this sucks. There was a survey at GDC this past year, and one of the biggest prevailing sentiments was among developers in the industry was survive 2024. I talked about this before, but this has been a brutal year for the gaming industry. Untold numbers of layoffs, people cutting costs, and a lot of it is due to bad decision making and short-sightedness on an industry-wide scale. It's hard, but I think it's always better to stay free. That's my advice.